on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, hello everyone and welcome in. My name is Rick Ferrin. My wife Susan next to me here tonight, and we're introducing a program coming up here next. It's called Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower, and we have our friend Anne Marie. Well, she's out there in Northern California. She's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and she's coming on here tonight, and she's got a really good program lined up. You know, death in the Jehovah's Witness organization. How do they treat it? How and what do they say? Well, Anne-Marie has some ideas tonight on what it is all about when someone dies in the Jehovah's Witness organization. So we're going to bring Anne-Marie on. Hello, Anne-Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. How are you doing today? And my dear sister Susan?
Well, we're both doing good. Thank you, Anne-Marie. So I think I got that right. You're going to be talking about death, are you? Maybe you could give us a little more clarity on that.
Well, it's just I remember in the Watchtower organization, death was kind of viewed as in a blasé manner, like, oh, well, you know, they just went to sleep and they'll wake up in the paradise, like no big deal. And as I was saying in my last show, my mother-in-law was dying, and she has passed, and it was very stressful. And I'm reflecting on all of the family that was there to support her and to support each other, and they just don't do that in the Watchtower. They just don't.
No, they don't. As a matter of fact, you know, when we were witnesses, I even noticed that. I really noticed that even when they had a memorial service for a dead witness, and you know that opened the Kingdom Hall, and the friends would come in, and people who knew the person, and I'll never forget this. There was a sister in my Kingdom Hall, and her name was Sister Perella, Gert Perella. And so, anyways, I believe it was a circuit overseer. They had him give the memorial service talk. And, you know, we didn't even get the name right. He said, our dear sister Perella, or some comment like that. And, you know, really everyone kind of was taken by surprise. That's something, you know, if you're going to give a memorial talk, you don't want to mess the person's name up. But it just showed the carelessness of it all. And it was like he was reading a manuscript, Anne-Marie. But I know what you're talking about, and I think it's going to get some attention. I do.
Another thing too, Anne-Marie, is they also treated it as a way to preach the sermon for the Watchtower about life and death. They didn't really care about the person. They cared about the opportunity to preach.
Yep.
Right. Go ahead.
You're all set. So, yeah, so I think it's a fascinating subject. We have a number of people already coming in. And I want to say, too, Anne-Marie, that, and, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I'm beginning to really scratch my head and wonder why we're getting so many more people coming into the Six Screens. Now, I know that, you know, even on Reddit, they were talking about us in there today. And, you know, they're talking, we always, you know, we get kind of bum raps, and we get a lot of people that kind of like us. But, you know, I always, sometimes I feel like Rodney Dangerfield, we get no respect, you know what I mean? So, but anyways, more
He was funny.
he was, well, I'll tell you, and the reason, I'll tell you what, and the reason why Rodney Dangerfield, I'm not going to get off on a tangent here, but the reason why Rodney Dangerfield was so successful, as a matter of fact, he was one of the top comedians ever in America. And the reason why Rodney Dangerfield was so good at it is everybody could relate to having no respect. Have you ever felt that way, Anne-Marie? Do you ever feel like you get no respect?
Oh, yeah, there have been times, especially by people that I should have disrespected, but I didn't want to. But that is true. It's part of showing love. It's part of the golden rule that Jesus said, treat others the way you want them to treat you.
Yeah, and everyone. In fact, I saw a little clip on Rodney Dangerfield, and that's what the narrator was saying. Is the reason why he connected is because everybody could put themselves in that position at one time or another that they're getting no respect. It's getting no respect. So it's fascinating. But anyways, in the witness world, I think when a lot of witnesses die, they get no respect either. It's more of a no, I'm not going to say all. I've been to some pretty good memorial talks. I've been to some pretty bad ones. But what I'm thinking, Anne Marie, is it's not showing a lot of respect when you get up there and you mess the person's name up, or it just becomes a recruiting talk to try to get other people to come to the Kingdom Hall. So I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what the audience has to say. Looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate that, my brother. I'm just hoping that callers will feel free to talk about their experience with someone close to them or someone they love dying. Because when you're in the Watchtower, it's a whole different story than being with regular Christian people. Thank you, my brother Rick. Thank you, my sister Susan. Want to welcome everyone in today to today's show, Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Today is July 11th, 2026. I welcome my entire Six Screens family, all of you. I love you all so, so very much, and invite you to call in to speak freely. I want to welcome the PIMQs, those who are physically in the Watchtower, but mentally questioning questions that they can't just keep swallowing down with, oh, well, they're just imperfect men. Oh, well, Jehovah will take care of it. And I want to welcome always the PMOs, those who are physically in but mentally out. They've done the research, their eyes are open, but they have to keep playing the game in their mind because they don't want to lose their family, their wife, their husband, their loved ones, their children, and so on. Everyone is welcome. And I also want to put a shout out to anyone listening who has never talked before, who maybe feels uncomfortable at the thought of, calling in. Go ahead, feel free. This is a safe place. Use any name you want. Call yourself Cinderella, Mr. Magoo, Thatchery. It doesn't matter. Just know that this is a safe place. We welcome you. You can say anything you want, ask anything you want, share anything you want. We are here to listen and to validate and to support you. Today, I wanted to talk about death and how our attitude or our experience has been shaped by the Watchtower. I just remember personally in the Watchtower when they talked about death, it was like nothing. It was like less than cutting your finger with a knife accidentally. It was like no big deal. Like, what are you crying about? I remember one sister whose beautiful little daughter, little baby girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old, had died in the hospital for lack of a blood transfusion. And the same day the poor girl died, they had the memorial service. And right after that, she went out in service like nothing. She shed not one tear, because she was expected to show faithfulness in the resurrection and not to be like the world crying for the dead. And she went out in service after her daughter's very short propaganda sales pitch memorial talk. And that's the only kind of talks I ever heard at the Watchtower. I want to invite anyone who is listening who might want to chime in, say hello, share a thought. Please feel free to hit *6 at any time. And if I'm talking, who cares? You go ahead and interrupt me, okay? So my mother-in-law just died, and she was extremely loving and very kind. After my mother threw me out in the street with no warning, actually called the cops on me to come pick me up and have me put away. They were going to take my 12-month-old baby away and my newborn twins. And, it was my mother-in-law, my beautiful mother-in-law, who was always there for me. She tells all her friends, I helped raise Anne Marie. And it's really hard to have seen her die. But, everybody has been coming to be supportive, and we're going to have a beautiful ceremony and mass at a close Catholic church. And for me, this is a great comfort. I've been to at least 3 or 4 mass services at the Catholic Church for my loved ones. And, you know, it is a beautiful, beautiful, comforting thing. So anyway, anybody want to chime in? That's why I wanted to talk about death. If anyone has had an experience where a loved one or a good friend or whatever who died, and maybe you were in the Watchtower, maybe not. Maybe somebody died and you were out of the Watchtower and the person who died was in Watchtower and nobody told you, or you had to find out on Facebook or through a non-Watchtower friend. It's you know, the way death is treated in the Watchtower is just not, it's not normal. And would anybody like to comment or call in, say hello?
Yeah, hello, Anne Marie.
Hey, my brother Ken,
Yeah.
how are you?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I guess I can use the name Ken Magoo, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that for a change here. Oh, yeah, yeah. I understood there that people could be anonymous if they want to, and yeah, sometimes it's appropriate, you know, not to use your real name. Kind of be careful. My case, it's not that kind of case, but yeah, for the people that are listening. Oh yeah, I just want to first of all, I got in touch with Jay for this is the second time.
Okay,
I got in touch with
thank
Jay.
you.
Yeah, he was in the
Don't
hospital.
worry.
He was in the hospital. Now, this is about 2 weeks ago. I just got a hold of him, and I just got it on the Sunday program just briefly, and so forth. And I got a hold of him. He was in the hospital for quite a while, and he's recovering right now, but he's just holding his own. And I'm gonna, when I get a chance, I'm gonna make a call down, maybe tonight yet if I get time. But he's out of the hospital and he's back over at the Riverside Rehabilitation in New York, and we'll see what happens down the road there. But he's just holding his own right now.
Ken, do you have a direct number by any chance? Because I've been dying to call Jay. By any chance, can you share that?
Yes, I can, but I don't have it handy right now because I'm at the supermarket. But I'll make it a point to try to call that stuff in there because I think Rick needs it too. So
yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, well, just a brief comment there on what we've been talking about. It's pretty well covered on there that the Watchtower Society does a lot of damage, and they're pretty cold-hearted and callous. They don't have no sympathy or no heart for anybody. They just care about themselves and so forth. They really got an ice cold heart. That's what it is. They don't understand, you know, that people have their problems and have their sufferings and burdens and everything like that. So they're no kind of a religion to be in at all. They're just gonna, anybody that gets in there, they're just gonna be destroyed. You know, they're gonna bring you right down to nothing.
That is so true.
If you belong to a religion, the religion ought to help you improve your life. It ought to improve your mentality. It ought to make you feel better. And for every time you perform a rite or a ritual, pursuant to your religion, there should be you should happen to have a reason for it behind it, and it should make some kind of improvement in your life and not run your life down and so forth. So if you have a religion that's going to drag your life down, it's just going to be a burden. Time to pack up and leave.
You mean your go bag, Ken Magoo?
Huh?
Do you mean to have your go bag ready and leave?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'd bother packing a go bag. I'd just get out of there as quick as I can.
Right.
You know,
So did
while
you-
we're on the subject, I don't mean to prolong this, but if they had any knowledge, if they would believe in their Christianity doctrine about people going into the next world, it says they were going to be, the clothing was going to be provided for them. Now, I don't know exactly where that is, but in the Greek, or no, not the Greek, but the Roman church writings in the book of Revelation, it says that you're going to be provided with clothing. You don't take anything with you here from the earth. So it goes to show how much they study goes to show how their belief system is, and goes to show how much studying they do and so forth, and goes to show how much they know they're talking about too, which they don't know what they're talking about at all.
They don't care. Their whole thing is spread the propaganda, manipulate, and try to draw in another person, because every person means hopefully more donations.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Watchtower Society really goes by the golden rule. The people that have the gold over there, they make the rules.
You are so right on the money, my brother Ken.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, and we'll keep listening, and we'll talk to you again sometime.
Well, I hope sometime soon, my brother. Thank you so much.
Thing, yeah. We'll keep listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak up? Hit *6. Feel free. If you're a new caller, it's okay. You're safe here. Give yourself any kind of name you want to be called by. We're here to listen. You are safe. Anybody would like to comment, call in? Today I'd like to talk about death and how Jehovah's Witnesses deal with death, or how we have been affected by the Watchtower's attitude toward how they treat death and dying, and even grief. They don't even allow real grief, because they might feel sorry for you for a little while, but then they start to see your display of grief, maybe depression, your sadness, your regret, as being unfaithful to Jehovah. And that just adds to the stress. Would anybody like to give a comment? Because I really wanted to talk about death and any experiences you may have had about death. And if I'm talking, please feel free to interrupt me, because this show is for you. *6, anyone?
Well, I'll jump in.
When I was
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
my love. Go ahead. Was that you, Rick?
I think there's another sister on there. Sister, if you're on there, come on back. I was just going to jump in there, but I want to hear what you have to say first. So go ahead, see if I can find. Okay, is that you, Constance? Or is it? Okay.
That's a bad connection.
Okay. All right. No, it wasn't her. Okay. Just someone unmuted themselves by mistake, Anne-Marie. But I want to jump in here.
No worries.
And as we were talking on our radio network before we went live on Facebook and YouTube here, I wanted to bring up what I mentioned, because a lot of people didn't hear it. But sometimes in Jehovah's Witness organization, for a funeral, well, they don't call it funeral talk. They call it a memorial service. They don't want to use any word that makes sense. Everybody else has a funeral talk, but the Jehovah's Witnesses have to call it a memorial service. But I mean, I won't pick on that part of it. But
And Rick, is it a literal, already written by the society talk that they have to give, or do they write it themselves?
Oh, it's a manuscript.
Oh,
It's a manuscript, and they have a few of them. I believe they have about 3 memorial service talks now. But what I want to bring up here is it's very routine and mundane and ordinary. It's not like, I'll tell you what, I haven't been to one recently, and for quite a while, maybe it's changed. But have you been to a funeral lately, or even going to a wake? Have you been to one lately in the world? Maybe a friend of yours died. Well, I have, and it's way different than a Jehovah's Witness memorial service. Well, what they're doing now, and it's quite common practice today, is they will take and actually have pictures of the person, maybe the occupation he was in, maybe pictures of his marriage, his wedding, his kids, and they give a little bio, and it's quite good. I kind of like that. I haven't been to a witness memorial service, so I don't know if they're doing that in the last 15, 20 years. But anyways, to make a long story short, and Amy, if you would just mute yourself, we do have some squeaking coming out of your phone. So you go ahead and mute yourself. There you go. And then I'll tell you, you can unmute it and come back on. Yeah, what it is in a memorial service at the Kingdom Hall. And the last one I went to was right before I got this fellowship from the organization. And there was a sister, her name was Sister Perella. She was married to an Italian brother. And anyways, when she died, and she was young, she was only in her 60s, and she died of a heart attack. So they had a service at the Kingdom Hall, and quite a few people came. They all knew Sister Perella. Her husband was an elder. So I believe it was a circuit overseer. They had to give the memorial talk. And it was, I'm going to tell you what, it was shocking. It was disgraceful. I'm not trying to demean the brother that was giving the talk, but if you're going to give up, if you're going to go in and give a memorial talk, you got to get the person's name right. You got to practice that. I mean, you got to stand in front of a mirror, Perella. You've got to say the name right. So he gets up there, and our dear sister Perello, I believe that's what he said, Perello, died, and everyone, stopped and were looking at each other like, that's shocking. He didn't get the name right. I mean, usually Jehovah's Witnesses, well, I shouldn't say they don't pick on each other, but I mean, they really were upset over this. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you're off to a bad start. But what they become, what a Jehovah's Witness memorial talk becomes is a recruitment talk. And it's a shame the Watchtower does that. They put more emphasis, at least the ones I've been to, they put more emphasis on, trying to encourage people to come to the Kingdom Hall than they actually put on the person that died. And maybe you find things otherwise, but that's how I looked at it. And even when I, look at the news a lot, I look at Reddit and different forums and even YouTube videos and talking about Jehovah's Witness memorial talks. All of them have a degree of, you could question the way they're done. They're somewhat different than talks or memorial service or funeral talk that you hear in the world. But I wanted to bring that up, Anne-Marie. You can unmute yourself now.
Thank you, and I'm sorry my phone was making squeaking noises. Is it still doing that?
It does sometimes. When I was just talking, it does. It's not doing it right now. But what happens when another person comes on and talks? It's doing a little bit right now. Yep. I don't know why. Sometimes it's nice and clear.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's okay. We can live with it. It's not that bad. But I'm just wondering why sometimes it's good and other times it's not. But it's not a major issue. It's fine. People can hear.
Oh, bless your heart. And it's a brand new phone. But I really appreciate your bringing out how Watchtower has routinely used the excuse for a memorial talk to really not be about the person that the memorial talk is supposed to be about, but it's basically used as a platform to present their propaganda. And they always use the teaching about the resurrection, hope, and the paradise earth, and they're just fell asleep in death like it's nothing. But it's basically subliminally presenting a message that if you come and join us, you can share in the resurrection hope too, blah, blah, blah. But I think that they have gotten much better, my brother. My sister-in-law died about 1.5 years ago, and we got to go to the memorial service at the Kingdom Hall in San Francisco. And even my husband, Jeff, was shocked. It was very well done. They had a beautiful video of the life of my sister-in-law. My brother gave a beautiful talk about his wife. and everybody was very supportive. And I was surprised that they invited everyone to a reception area where they served a lot of food, which I'd never heard of. That's what they do in a Catholic church. After the Mass and the memorial funeral service is over, there's a huge layout of food that the nuns put out. You don't even have to do anything. But I was very surprised. So I think things have changed, because when my mother died, my Jehovah's Witness mother died last year, they streamlined my mother's service, and I got to watch it on Zoom, and it was really well done. And the brother who did it, of course, it was in Hawaii. They're a lot more loving over there in Hawaii. But the brother who gave the talk, wearing his nice, beautiful Hawaiian shirt, he was talking about my mom, and he said, gee, I never knew that she was started a rifle team at her college, and she was a crack shot, because she was. And he said, boy, I'm glad I never got her mad. And you know, it was a really nice service. And I'm thinking maybe along with beating your children, so many people would call Child Protective Services because so many people would take their kids outside the Kingdom Hall to beat their kids. So over the years, the Watchtower has changed. They're not promoting beating your children anymore. So I'm thinking maybe it was so many people complaining about how blah and bland and unloving and impersonal the typical Watchtower memorial service is, because as you know, at least in the old days, we were always encouraged to invite non-believing, non-Watchtower relatives and friends to the memorial service. And I'm sure like 99% commented on the difference between funerals that they've gone to and how impersonal and, you know, like a sales pitch that the typical Watchtower memorial service was. So I do believe that that might be behind the big change I saw, not only in my sister-in-law's memorial service at the Kingdom Hall, but the memorial service that the witnesses did for my mother last year. So that's just my thought. Anybody have any thoughts to share?
Yeah, Anne-Marie.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Okay, who's first? Who spoke first?
I am.
What's your name, sweet? Who is this?
It's Dick Borgie.
Oh, my brother Dick. My brother,
Yeah.
Could you wait? Let Dick share his thoughts.
Sure.
And please,
Not a
my
problem.
brother Dick, what's up?
Ready to go?
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Yeah, okay. My mother passed away in 1985, and at the time I was a ministerial servant. And she passed away with cancer, so it was a long, arduous, painful descent into death. So I knew I was going to be given the talk, so I spent months working up the talk. Get as many scriptures in as I could, and pushing the JW agenda, paradise, earth, resurrection, all that stuff. So I came up and I gave the talk. My mother actually, before she passed, she found a chapel in New Hampshire that would hold about 100 people, but it was a non-denominational chapel. It had no crucifixes and no, no glass was all painted in and so forth. So I got up there and I gave the talk. And I probably did 45 minutes of nothing but JW propaganda, as you allude to. And I thought, what an opportunity I'm going to have to preach to all my family and my... Hello?
Wow, right here.
Yeah, so somebody else chimed in. Anyway, I thought, what an opportunity. I might get some people to start studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and everybody, would be, kind of happy that I was giving this wonderful talk about the new system and, all that wonderful propaganda. So I did it for about 45 minutes. And about a month later, my cousin approached me and he said, my father wanted to go up and punch you right in the mouth. Said, your mother, my mother, believed that when she died, she was going to be in heaven with Jesus. My mother was a good person. She had her problems, but she basically was a very, very good person. And her belief was she was going to be in heaven. Her belief was not paradise earth. And I was pushing paradise earth, and I was pushing it more than I told people what I didn't tell everyone what a loving, kind mother she was and how hard she worked. And, you know, I didn't throw any of that stuff in there. I didn't really eulogize her other than say she was a loving mother and a caring person. I was just paradise earth, and all my family and relatives and neighbors and so forth, they were really quite annoyed with me because I was pushing JW propaganda. I just thought I'd throw that out there for anybody who thinks that if they're going to give a memorial talk, that they're going to start using it as a recruitment tool, because that's a really bad thing to do. I wish I had never done it, but 1985, I was a servant, and I thought that was the best way to go. But I can tell you right now, I really regret that talk that I gave. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you, my brother Dick. I'm so sorry that you have that regret. I'm sure your mother was a wonderful mother, and that's sad that you didn't feel moved to, you know, share a few sentences about what a wonderful woman she was. But you were being a good Watchtowerite. You were following, you know, the two-step Watchtower dance. You know, present the Watchtower's hope of resurrection in a beautiful paradise earth. You know, they present it's all hearts and flowers, butterflies and rainbows, because they want to get new recruits. But yeah, I think they have changed a little bit, at least some in some congregations. Thank you. Is that other brother still there?
Yes. Hi, Anne-Marie. Hi, Dick.
Hi, who's this?
This is Dean from Hawaii.
Well, Dean from Hawaii, what island are you on?
Oh, I'm in central Missouri. I no longer live in Hawaii, thank God. Too many brainwashed Jehovah's Witnesses out there. Hey, but Dick, I really enjoyed what you relayed. At least now you've come to the light and you see the error of toting the Jehovah's Witness propaganda. So, hey, kudos to you, and better late than never, right? But being a death expert, I'd like to chime in a few things. You know, there's two primary modes of disposition that everybody knows: is cremation or traditional burial, or like say a viewing and then a cremation. I mean, there's a few options, but primarily it's just traditional burial and cremation. And I know this for a fact. Jehovah's Witnesses, 9 times out of 10, they're going to take the cremation route. Number one, it's cheaper, and then probably they want the rest of the money to go to them. You know, food for thought there. But my aunt, my mom and my aunt, they're devout Jehovah's Witnesses. My aunt died last year. In fact, I think it was before I went out to the convention that Rick threw. But she was like a mother to me. You know, she was very good. She was very loving and very giving. I mean, I miss her. But, you know, I asked my family, hey, I can't go to the memorial, but I want you guys at least to record it for me. And I asked them from the bottom of my heart, and they told me this baloney, like, oh, we forgot, or nobody recorded it. It was just a bunch of baloney, because they knew I was going to decipher the memorial, and of course deduce that everybody knows that it's just a call to further witness the propaganda of the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just, you know, it just really disgusts me. And, you know, my mom, my stepfather, he's the grand poobah there in Oahu with the JW, but he still has my 87-year-old mother going house to house on Saturday. I mean, she can't even drive anymore, and he's pressuring her to go out. It's just so disgusting. And I hate to say that, you know, God forbid my mom does pass. I will not be going to the funeral, because I will not be a good little boy if I'm there anyway. Because I just got so much disdain for this cult. And that's all I really wanted to relay, I guess.
Well, Dean, I'm very, very glad that you did chime in with that, because I like that word disdain, because when you see how cold and inhuman and impersonal that they can be, you know, it's all about recruitment. And like Rick said, even not even getting the dead person's name right, that is so disrespectful, and it really shows how. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you know, not even making sure that you get the person's name correct, to pronounce it correctly, and it wasn't even a hard name to pronounce, of that beautiful sister who died. That shows the level of lack of care.
They don't even have the heart to honor the person's life, you know, of a life that was lived. You know, it's all about the propaganda first and foremost. And that's what's totally disgusting.
Hey.
But that's all I had to say. You guys have a great evening. I'll be still listening.
Oh, thank you, my brother. And I'm so glad you chimed in. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I just enjoy your show, Anne Marie. You take care, and it was an honor meeting you when I went out to Boston.
Oh, it was an honor meeting you as well. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
This is sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
This is Gail. I met you last year in Boston when you finally arrived. I had trouble arriving. I really can commiserate with the brother that gave the funeral talk, and it was all about proselytizing. I did the exact same thing. It wasn't me giving the talk, but in 2005, when my son died, it was a total impersonal funeral service. My grandson, my 16-year-old grandson, was murdered May the 2nd this year. And the difference between his funeral service and what the preacher did, she sat and talked with the family, hung out with the family for 1.5 days, and pulled pieces and talked about my grandson, about from the time he was born till he died, till he was murdered. And it was an amazing funeral service compared to the one my son had in 2005 with an elder.
I am very, very sorry for losing your grandson and your son. Gail, that is, I can't even imagine. I can't.
Well, it's hard. He was shot in the back of the head there were 60 rounds shot into an apartment, and his best friend was killed, and the other best friend might not ever walk again. They were 18, 16, and 17.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there were 10 kids hurt, and then 2 died.
Oh, honey.
So,
how old was your grandson?
16. He just started his first job in February. I got a picture of him going off to work on his first job.
Oh.
Yeah,
my God.
He was an amazing kid. He was a great hugger. And you know what? You know what the preacher said? She says, you know, he says, we were celebrating Christmas, and my son's mother-in-law says, why do we celebrate Christmas? And my grandson, who was 4 at the time, he said, because we're not Jehovah's Witnesses. And she did that in the memorial talk.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But there were other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses there, because my kids were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses. I was in over 50 years, so my kids were shocked when I quit in 2024.
Wow, so you're recently out. My goodness.
Oh, yeah, I'm a newbie.
Yes, you are. And I can see that there's probably quite a difference between your son's memorial talk and the real true funeral honoring your grandson.
It was so impersonal. Al just talked about the hope of the resurrection, all this. My son wasn't even a Jehovah's Witness. He had quit when he was 13, so he didn't even go. And yet the talk was all about, had nothing to do with my son. It just was trying to convert people. That was all it was. Just like the elder that called in, same thing. He thought, oh, this is a great time to get new people. And it was the same thing. My kids felt the same way. That was a horrible funeral service.
I'm so
and I feel
sorry
guilty
that
about it.
happened. Oh,
Yeah. Well, and it was, it was 21 years ago, 2005. But anyway, my grandson had a great funeral service on the 8th of May, and I'm so happy that he did.
well, I am as well. It's when my father died, I went to the pastor of my church, and he made an appointment for me to come back and had his wife take the children and keep them occupied, my great-grandson as well. And he sat down with me and he said, and he had a notepad, and he said, tell me about your father. And he gave the most beautiful, beautiful memorial service for my father. He even sang my father's favorite Christ song. I think it's called In Christ Alone. And it's funny because at that time, my church was in the old Kingdom Hall that I had attended as a child and later went back to the organization. Crazy. It was crazy when I first saw that Kingdom Hall. I first saw the Kingdom Hall that I had attended as a child and later as an adult when I came back and had been in for several years. I saw the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witness sign take down, and all across the top of the entrance of the Kingdom Hall was this beautiful banner, Trinity Covenant Church. And it was the most beautiful church I've ever been part of. And for them to spend time, tell me about your father. And it was all about him and about Christ's love for us and about him dying for us. And, you know, it was so beautiful and comforting. And I'm just so sorry you didn't have that for your son, but I'm glad you had a good service for your grandson.
I had a good one for my mom. She died on March 31st, 2020. And on August 15th, I said, okay, we're going to bury my mom. And the whole family came, and we had to go up to Old Oak Cemetery at Fort Towson, Oklahoma. And they opened up the old rock chapel for me. And I officiated, actually. So I've been kind of a rebel all along because, you know, everybody was locked in their houses. They weren't allowed to leave during COVID. And so we had a big party at the lake. We had a jet ski and a boat and everything. But afterwards, you know, everybody got up. I started it off, and everybody got up and said what they wanted about my mom and what their remembrance were. She was 96, so we knew it was coming.
Right. Doesn't make it any easier, but you know, it's a beautiful thing when everybody gets to come up and say something. That's right, Princess.
So that was a different thing, and that's when I felt so guilty about, well, I felt guilty about my son to begin with, but because it was so cold and impersonal. But the differences between the funerals, that's what makes a funeral.
Exactly.
Can I chime in for a moment here?
Well, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Who's this, please?
This is Seth Coulter from Missouri.
Seth? Okay.
Yeah, this is Seth. I've been listening in for a little bit, been trying to get some chores done around the house while listening, and I just wanted to chime in and say, since leaving the organization, I count it as my privilege. I've had several, 3 in fact, where the person had a JW funeral, and they also had a funeral that I got to officiate. Happened 3 times now, back to back. People would go to the JW one because obviously that person may or may not have been associated with it sometime or left quietly, but I knew their real belief. And so the families have asked me to officiate a different memorial as well. And the comments you get by the JW funeral, they all say it's nothing but recruitment. It's just recruitment. And the comments that I received afterward for this one just brought me to tears on how wonderful a life is that can be celebrated. Make it about the person. Make it about that individual. That is so precious. That is just absolutely precious. And I really feel for anyone whose family member, such as mine in the past, they've had the JW funeral. It's impersonal. If you've been to one, you've been to them all. It's so impersonal. So making it about the person, it's just something quite special. And being able to deliver 3 competing or rebuttal funeral talks. I don't know whatever word you want to use there. I'm not a man of many words. I just talk a lot.
You speak very well, Seth. Am I to understand that you gave at least one traditional Watchtower memorial talk and 2
Yes.
that were not?
Correct.
And you got, yeah, you know, the word that I've heard so far today from the callers is how the typical Watchtower memorial service is impersonal. It's not about the person. And it's really...
there's so much truth behind that because it is literally an outline. It is a almost word for word outline that you follow. There's nothing special about it. You may make a comment or 2 about the person, typically tied to the organization, what they did for the organization, what they did for the governing body, what they did for the congregation, not about that person, not really about that person at all. And that's the thing. It's really in the outline. It says you need to stick as close to this as possible. Don't allow anyone else to speak. It says that in there. Don't allow anyone else to speak. So yeah, it's quite controlling.
Very much so. And I really appreciate that you brought out something else I had forgotten, is that in my experience of the typical memorial service, the only time they really seemed to focus on the person that had died was how they were a faithful Jehovah's Witness, what they had done for the organization. She was so faithful. She was so spiritual. You know, she brought so many into the truth, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's what they've done for the organization, as you said. And Seth, I am so glad you brought that out. Is there anything you'd like to add?
That is something, you know, a lot of them that I've been to, one of the final things they do, I always thought it was cheesy and almost inappropriate, but they would hold up, I know they don't count time anymore, but when I was in, they still counted time, and they would hold up that person's last time slip and say they were faithful until death, and this proves it, and they were holding up a time slip. Who knew what they wrote on that? But, you know, anyway, it was they were faithful to the very end and holding up a time slip with probably fake numbers written in on it. And it just, it got me to, even when I was in, that disappointed me. I'm like, that's really sad to be holding up that person's last time slip, because that just shows what they were a slave to and not bringing out things about their family, about their life. I made sure that when my grandma had her, she was a JW, when she had her JW funeral, I made sure that the speaker, he knew I wasn't going to, because I did not get to deliver that talk, but I made sure that the speaker knew to talk about my grandma. So I pushed certain things on him. He said, well, this isn't the way we do it. Well, this is the way we're doing this one, or we're not going to do it. And so he kind of knew that. And I was active at that point, but I wanted it to be about my grandma. And so I pushed that.
Well, good for you, Seth. Good for you. I can't believe the difference. It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. But hopefully they are, at least in some congregations, changing. Like I said, my mother's Kingdom Hall memorial service was all about her. And yeah, they said she was a faithful Jehovah's Witness, but they talked about her and what she was like.
So
and they could,
good, though.
What's that?
That is so rare, but excellent. That is so good. I've only been out since early 2024. And so that has to, if that is an adjustment, that's a new adjustment. That is so good to hear, though.
It was. I mean, the one who gave the memorial talk had little anecdotes about, you know, her personality and how you know, I didn't want to make her mad because my mom was like a little spitfire, but very loving. And he really was about her. And I was like, wow. Yeah, it was good. I'm really glad you brought that out. And I'm so happy that you pushed the brother to really speak about your grandmother. That was really brave and awesome of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me have the time to come on and share that, along with listening to everyone else. That's really special. I'll be, hopefully I can tune into the program. I got a big announcement here in a little bit, if I can get on there. Something really cool.
Well, hey, is this the time to
Anne-Marie?
share it? Are you, okay, who's this?
This is Joe.
Joe. Hello, Joe. How are you?
How are you doing?
Good. Are you in South Carolina or North?
Yes, I'm in South Carolina.
It's so good to hear your voice. What's on your mind, brother?
So I wanted to share an experience when I was a teenager. If many people that are listening remember, the last talk of the assemblies or conventions would always be about events that happened during the convention or assembly. And I'll never forget, I was a teenager at the time, and there was a brother and sister. They had two girls that got killed in a school bus accident. And they actually glorified the mother and father because I think they had buried them on the Friday prior to that Saturday and Sunday assembly. They glorified them for coming to the assembly. So they don't even let people grieve. And for them to use this mother and father to glorify a terrible event. They lost their two kids, and yes, they went to the assembly, but I wouldn't have even mentioned that, because what they were doing is showing little regard for the loss of their dear loved ones. But anyway, that actually happened at an assembly. It was the last stop, and the district overseer mentioned that brother and sister, despite losing their daughters in a bus accident, made it to the full assembly. Thank you, Anne-Marie, and I want to let you know that I'm sorry for the loss of your mother.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate that. Hello? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, this is Penny.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Penny?
just listening, and Penny from Kentucky.
Hi.
I heard Gail, and she mentioned about her son, and then now this brother that was just talking about the other family that lost their daughters. I mean, you know, one of the hardest deaths there ever is to have to cope with is a child loss. I mean, they all affect us deeply, but when you lose a child, it's a whole nother level. I think that the JWs, they run from grief. They don't allow you to grieve. Somehow you're wrong when you grieve. I don't quite get their way of thinking. I've lost many people in my lifetime. JWs as well as not JWs. But when I lost my daughter, that was the top of the cake. You know, I just mentally went down because there were so many experiences after her death. Like, maybe it was just my mind. That's what they told me. My mind was playing tricks on me. But yeah. I mean, because I sensed her. I felt I seen her. I felt I was awakened between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and I could see her out my bedroom window. And from that, it led to me doing something to help her child. I feel like I've had multiple experiences with her being gone. But it still is very heartbreaking, and it's something that I can't get over. I just did her 21, much like it, 21 years since my daughter was killed in the accident, and her daughter is 21, and it's almost next to impossible because so early on you're not given any kind of support or no understanding, and you're just told, just wait, you'll see them later, you know, and maybe we will and maybe we won't, you know. I don't know that yet. I struggle with all of it, but it's not easy to live in a world without a child. Sometimes you wonder, did it really ever happen? Did you really ever give birth to them? I mean, it's overwhelming. Yeah. And I don't think the JWs have really any support for these people. When I first started trying to go back over there to the Kingdom Hall after so many years of really going down a rabbit hole after she was killed, a couple of people that I knew had lost their child recent when I was trying to go back. And I had went up to each of them and tried to speak to them, and they shut me down, like it didn't matter if the child had died. And I thought, why do they want to hinder us so much? God blessed us when he gave us that kid. You know, he blessed us. And that person's life mattered. My daughter's funeral was nothing but standing room only. I mean, there wasn't enough space for them, the people who came. Only 16 years old, and she still had provided so much to people around her. But I just wanted Gail to know, and anyone else here who has lost a child, it's okay to grieve. Be gentle with yourself. Sometimes you got to teach yourself what is right and what is wrong when it comes to these kinds of things. And I know that I'll grieve until the day I die. And hopefully one day I'll see her again. And if I don't, I'm not going to know it. So I just have a lot of love and respect for those who deal with child loss. And you're all in my thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly.
Anne Marie?
I need to ask Rick a question. Rick, are you there?
Right here.
It sounds like my phone is acting up. Am I echoing or anything?
There was a dog barking, but I think it was on the other caller's phone.
No, it's not me.
No, it's
okay,
not.
I just wanted to check in.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead,
Just
Susan.
let me know if there's any problems. Penny, I want to thank you so much for sharing your feelings and your experience. I cannot imagine losing my 16-year-old baby girl, even though it's been 21 years since she died in the car accident. It was last week. You never lose that grief. You learn to live with it. People say, oh, go, get over it, or you never get over it. You adjust to the new reality. You learn to live with the pain and the grief and the memories. But it is abominable, if that's the correct way to pronounce it, that anybody would be dismissive of your sorrow. That just makes me want to punch somebody dead in the face. Sorry, that's the way I feel. And also, Penny, I want to thank you. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I want to thank you for saying out loud that you have had what I interpret as your daughter coming to you. I'm sorry? Go ahead. I could barely hear you. Does somebody want to speak? I could barely hear you.
This is Debbie. I'm sorry. One of the women came in my room here to see if I was going to stay in my room for supper or go to the dining room. So that
Hi, Debbie.
I apologize for that interruption. But, I had something I wanted to say. when my dad died in 2000, there was standing room only. They even had speakers out in the parking lot at the Kingdom Hall because the fire department came, police department came, the mayor came, because of my brother, you know, and I mean, several hundred, there was like 400 people there and no seating for most of them. But the brother that gave the talk, I got so mad because my brother was disfellowshipped. But my brother was so supportive and just wonderful, you know, when he died. I mean, when our father died. And that brother that did that talk said that he left his wife and a daughter, which was me, and didn't mention my brother. And then in the talk at the prayer at the end, he asked Jehovah to be with my mother and me. And I wanted to go up there and punch his lights out, just like you said. Not only that, but I had written a poem that I wanted read at the funeral. And, but the brother had written his own poem. And he set mine aside. And I was really hurt by that also.
Oh,
But
Debbie.
I felt so bad for my little brother because he had done so much good, you know, and like after Dad died, every time Mom needed something, she would call my brother. And then after the, you know, afterwards, you know, they had, somebody had like a little, can't even think of the word, where everybody came to eat and everything. And we just fixed our plates and went home. Well, it was just me and Mom and my brother and his wife. And my brother would not sit down at the table out of respect for my mother. And I told my mom she needed to tell him he could sit down with us. And I said, look, this is our father's, the day my father died. And if he can't sit down at the table, then I'll stand up with him. And I stood up.
Good for you. Good for you.
And he kept telling me, no, Debbie, sit down. I said, no, Greg, we lost our dad today. And if we're not going to sit down with our mother, and both of us sit down, and both of us don't sit down, then me and you are going to stand up for each other. And I wouldn't sit back down. And finally, Mom said, okay, Greg, you can sit down. And he said, no, Mom, I don't want to sit down. So me and him stood up for the rest of till we were done eating. And then, and also, a bunch of, when Dad died, a bunch of sisters came over, talking about that. One of them said, well, I'm going to sing at his funeral. And I'm looking at them like, who the heck are you to decide you're going to sing at my dad's funeral? And she says, well, I have the right because he was my friend. And I'm like, but you're not being asked to sing. Well, then two other sisters said, well, I think I should sing too. Anyway, I told Mom, I said, they're in there arguing over who's going to sing. She said, sing about what? I said, they want to sing at Dad's funeral. She said, no, nobody's singing. I said, you need to go in there and shut them down. So Mom went in there and she said, look, we're not having anybody to sing at the funeral. And it was a memorial service, of course. But like you said, back then, they didn't really say much of anything about my dad. They said he'd been in the truth for so long, you know, and he was an elder and very well liked in the JW, you know, Brotherhood. And of course, the Watchtower Society had used him up too. And it was just the whole thing, like you said, was like crossing, can't think of the word, recruiting. It was like recruiting new people. But my mom's family that was there they couldn't believe it was such an impersonal, you know, service. And when my brother's name wasn't even mentioned, they couldn't believe that. And that really, really, really hurt me and my brother so bad. I just thought, how dare you leave him out? And somebody had put a thing in the paper and also did not mention him. So
That is so disgusting.
oh yeah, and then Mom died in 2006 on Mother's Day, and she'd been in the hospital 5 weeks before she passed away. And I remember Dad had a massive stroke on a Friday, but his heart didn't stop beating until Sunday. And so it was a short thing, but Mom held on for 5 weeks after her intestines ruptured. And she wanted to go to a no blood transfusion hospital. And she was airlifted there from South Haven, Mississippi. And it was in Alabama, I think. And my brother took off work pretty much the whole 5 weeks so that we could be with her. And even though we both felt like our mother was a little bit too much of a staunch Jehovah's Witness, you know, but we respected what her wishes were. And hold on. We respected her wishes and everything. And she had asked that same brother to do her memorial talk. And as soon as I found that out, I called him and I said, you better include my brother in everything. I said, because my brother has sacrificed so much for our mother, whether he's Jehovah's Witness or not, he's still her son. And if you don't recognize it, I will interrupt the talk and give it myself. And of course, it was at the same Kingdom Hall, but I was still seething from when he did Dad's talk 6 years earlier, you know. And but I just thought, how dare you think you're going to do that again and get away with it? I said, because me and my brother, we don't want you to be any part of her service, none. And it was just such an unloving thing. And I mean, I think they just said Sister Darlene got passed away. And we look forward to seeing her in the resurrection. She left behind 2 grandkids, which my brother had a child also, and I had 2 children. But he only left the 2 children, not the one my brother had. And that was, I don't remember what I was saying. I think that was in Dad's talk. But the thing is, I did the newspaper thing, where you do the notice of someone dying. And I included my brother and his wife and his son, my mom's grandson. And then I even said his name, and I said, and his daughter, Debbie Moore, and her 2 children, Tina and BJ, and so many sisters and brothers that she left behind, and how well she was liked at the Kingdom Hall. And I had put in some personal information about her that I wanted covered, because I already knew he was heartless the first time. Who the heck knew what he was going to do the second time? And both of it was painful, but even I didn't grieve like you would have thought after losing my mom and my dad. And I remember on September 11th in 2001, wasn't that when the Twin Towers?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I had been staying with my mom and dad, and I was renting my house out and just living with them. And I was used to Dad being around, and when I was there, and when that happened, I jumped up and I said, "Dad, turn on the TV! Hurry! Look at what's going on!" And I ran to his bedroom, and the bed was made, and nobody was in there. That was a year after he died. And that's when it hit me that he was really gone. And, but it took a whole year. With my mom, it was just that she was loving and kind at the Kingdom Hall, and she hugged everybody, and at every meeting she would say, "I need to go to Kingdom Hall so I can get all my hugs." And I said, "Mom, why don't you hug me?" She said, "Well, that's weird." And I'm like, "But I'm your daughter." And she never hugged me, and even my brother said the same thing. It's not hard to talk, of course, but he said, Mom just kept us at a arm's length distance, So neither one of us really grieved over Mom, which was kind of sad. I was even mad at her because she died on Mother's Day.
Yeah, I understand.
Hey, Anne Marie, we got a number. Excuse me 1 second, Debbie. We got a number of people. We don't have too much time to go on here, but we got a number of people who want to come into the program tonight. So thank you, though, Debbie, and thank you for your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Debbie.
But I want to give some other people a chance to come in. Go ahead, Anne Marie.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, and I'm sorry you went through that, Debbie. That really shows the Watchtower's influence. Thank you. Would somebody else like to chime in? This is your show, Star Citizens. Talk away.
Anne Marie, real quick, it's Dean again.
Who? Dean?
Dean again.
Hi.
Hey, I forgot to add some things I have to add. You will never, everybody that's listening, you will never see casketed human remains in a Kingdom Hall. Never. If somebody does, please enlighten everybody, because you will never see casketed remains in a Kingdom Hall. And the last thing I wanted to add that I forgot to mention earlier is my best friend passed away. His mom and my mom were Jehovah's Witnesses. They used to cut hair together. And when my dear friend passed away of a heart attack, he is converted Christian like I am. So he had his remains embalmed. And my mom and my stepdad went to the funeral reluctantly because they knew they better at least show up, But so the Christian service gets over with, and then everybody goes down to the gravesite for the burial, right? They didn't even have the decency to go to the gravesite for the burial committal service. And then we all come back for the luau, right? Post-funeral. You already talked about it, Anne Marie. So before the food gets served, the pastor that gave the funeral service he prayed for everybody. And I was at the table with my mom and my stepfather, and I looked at them. I mean, they're all supposed to be Christian, right, as they say. And they would not pray with the pastor. And then I see them get their food after the prayer was done. And then they pray again to their Jehovah. It just disgusted me. And when I hear Debbie and everybody talk, my heart just bleeds for them. But you know what? It really, really, I'll say it really, really pisses me off. It burns me. Debbie, I don't even know, you know, the brother or whatever, but I don't even know him, but I want to punch him in the face myself. But
Hey, Dean,
yeah.
this is Seth from Missouri again. You said you'll never see remains in the Kingdom Hall.
No, never.
That is true to an extent, but my grandfather was at the Kingdom Hall for his funeral. My grandma requested that, and they did honor that. So that was something they normally do not do, but they did honor her request.
Okay, thanks for enlightening me, but like I say, case in point, that's a rarity. Yeah, it's just, this whole thing just disgusts me, but I'm a deaf person, so I had to chime in on this subject, Anne Marie. You got my wheels turning, but I was so upset how they dishonored my best friend. And you know what? His own mother didn't even go down to the committal site for the burial. It's just disgusting. His own mother.
Yep, that's true.
Anyway, I wanted to just add that. God bless everybody. Take
Well,
care.
God bless you. You too, my dear. Would anybody else like to chime in on their experience with death, being influenced by the Watchtower's view of death and how they handle the death of someone? *6, feel free to speak.
Hey, Anne Marie.
Yeah, who's this?
Hey, it's RJ.
RJ, what's my brother up to?
I am loving the show.
Aww.
It's a dark topic, but it's a important topic. Yeah, I guess just to talk about what others have already said, being a witness is a real ego killer, and that carries over into your funeral and your death as well.
That is so well said.
Like, there's, gather my thoughts here. They kind of have like a plug and play system where people are interchangeable. So they don't really dwell on who did what after they're gone.
Yeah, what's one robot dying? You know, there's always another robot to take their place. It's like we're not individuals. We don't matter as individuals, even though God created us to be separate individuals with our own personalities. That's a good point you brought up.
Yeah, and I didn't experience a lot of death when I was in, but there was not, I don't remember there being like a proper grieving period. Like, I don't remember anybody saying like, hey, I know you're down about, this person's gone.
Yeah.
Take all the time you need and, come back when you're ready. I don't remember that at all.
No, I don't either. I think they just kind of dismiss the grief part as if, again, showing grief, real grief, is indicative of your not having faith in the resurrection teaching. Like somehow you're weak in the truth. And then they start to avoid you if your grieving is going on more than they think you should grieve. You should be happy. She closed her eyes and she's going to wake up in the paradise. What's your problem?
Yeah, the brother that went over the questions with me on my baptism, he died in a car accident on the way to the convention. And I didn't take that very well. And then from what I remember, you know, people were just patting me on the back saying, he's just taking a nap. You'll see him before you know it.
And you know they mean well, but you still want to slap them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking like, you know, it was kind of hard because I didn't really have time to grieve because I had my own, you know, responsibilities. And this is like my first day of actually being a witness, and official witness. And it's not a very good start.
Oh, how awful for you, RJ. And he was your friend that you lost?
Yeah. He was kind of like a surrogate grandfather.
Oh.
Which he was up there in age, but I think he would have had, you know, probably 10 natural years, if not for that accident, you know?
Oh. And on his way to a convention, you know, they're always talking about Jehovah's protection and blah, blah, blah. Well, what do they call that happened?
Yeah, and I think about that because, you know, I left about a year and a half after that, and I'm thinking, well, what would he say about it? And, you know, I think he was like a reasonable person. I wonder, like, if he said, like, hey, if you're getting a bad break, I don't blame you. You know, because from my experience, not all things were equal. Like, you know, some adapt to it. Some have better circumstances in the organization than others do.
Hey, Anne-Marie.
I had bad luck when I was in. Like, it was not, they weren't playable cards. There wasn't any aces there.
Wow, great metaphor.
Hey,
was there
Anne-Marie.
somebody who was trying to speak? Yeah. Thank you so much, RJ. Yes, sister. What's your name?
This is Susan. Hi, honey. This is Susan. Hi. I'm listening to all these experiences, and they all have one thing in common. They're learning bad behavior from the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. All of them. They hear how people are comforted. So what do? The next opportunity at a funeral, they say the same junk. And it just goes on and on and on. And that's how they teach each other to comfort each other. They don't use the Bible. They use stupid things that people say at a Kingdom Hall service or wherever they're having the service. So it's just bad behavior. Jehovah's Witnesses learning bad behavior and passing it on.
Well, that's all part of the Watchtower influence. They don't teach us to really comfort or to acknowledge grief or to, you know how to be supportive when someone is devastated by a loved one's death. It's really sad. It's very sad. I've seen a lot of impersonal behavior, kind of brushing it off like it's no big deal. It's just not normal.
Well, the sister that goes out in service after her daughter dies, that's ridiculous. That's not normal. She should be going right to the psychiatrist for that one. That's not normal behavior. So how can Jehovah's Witnesses, do they write articles about what you should say at a funeral? Have they ever done that? Have you ever seen anything?
I've never seen it.
No, but is it needed? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because all we hear is very, very distressed people getting no help from people where Paul says comfort one another. This is how you do it. But they don't. They have their own way, and they should be having watchtowers on it. They should be having Thursday night meetings on it, but they don't. And they never will because they don't really care.
If it's not going to benefit them, they ignore it. Yeah, who's it? Thank you so much, Susan. Who's it?
Hi, this is Nick from Texas.
Hi, Nick from Texas. How are you?
Good. I normally don't go on these kinds of things because my exit happened about 30 years ago. But I got a knock your socks off story, basically. I going to keep it towards the topic of loss, I imagine, because am I being heard now?
No.
I don't know. Why don't you just go ahead and tell your story, my dear?
Okay. So I basically lost everybody I ever knew and my family, or in my early 20s, maybe 22, 21. So I was one of those born in the 60s, late 60s, grew up in it, was in the assembly programs, was in the orchestra for the assemblies, and grew up around nothing but witnesses. Had a very traumatic, and that's what I hear from a lot of these cases that I'm listening to today. From what I hear, there's a lot of trauma that people have gone through, and people continue to go through because of their experiences at the Kingdom Hall and with other witnesses. So anyway, I had a very contradictory and abusive upbringing, and you know how they like to cover that up. And our family had more than our fair share of secrets, just one, you know, besides the abuse and everything from different family members in different ways, and justifying it with the religion. I found out my sister was my half-sister at her own wedding because I was the usher at the Kingdom Hall. And so my father's need to have a different reputation than what he was in reality, kept that secret that my sister was my half-sister, that he had been married previously. And so when her mother came up to me to be seated at her wedding when I was 16 years old, she announced herself as my sister's mother, which I thought I was talking to a crazy lady. And I went to my mother and said, this crazy lady's saying she's my Tina's mother. And then that's when my sister had to take me back at her wedding and explain to me that, yes, she was forbidden to tell me that she has a different mother. Anyway, so this happened, and then I didn't trust, and I got married, and then I got divorced, and I got remarried without approval based off of somebody's opinion and a lie. And so I got kicked out, went back in, got kicked out again, went back in, and then I left it. I left it at with 21 or something like that, 22. The thing is that when I left it and I got kicked out, and the way I was treated by everybody, I basically had a funeral for my whole family. All my friends, you know, if you've grown up in it and you don't have any friends, and you were growing up strict in it, you definitely don't have any friends. Then you lose everybody. And I lost everybody 3 different times. 2 times by being disfellowship, and then the last time I just slipped away after I got back in. And I tried to address things with my father, but he was in, you know, it's a brainwashing. And I just wanted to say some of the stories I've heard. I look back on things, and my father wasn't a good person, okay? But my mother was. She was just a victim. I was a good person, and I knew a lot of really good people, and we were brainwashed and controlled. I think it's a psyop, if you ask me. I think it started out as a psyop, you know, with Charles Taz. You do some research and everything about mind control and how to control different people, and how they used psychiatrists at the governing body to do things. Anyway, now I believe my brother is either a district overseer or whatever. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody from my family up until, about 3 weeks ago for 30 years. Nobody, not a friend, family member, nobody. No, my youngest brother, yes, about 20 years ago when he left. But my mother had left, but she's kind of in la-la land, and she doesn't like to talk about anything. My youngest brother had left about 20 years ago. He told me that him and his family in Hawaii were going to celebrate Christmas for the first time. I had left at 21, and I had later became a pastor of a church in my 30s. I had a daughter, and I became a pastor of a church, and went to seminary and all that in Georgia. and was, you know, unlearning and learning as I went. It was fantastic. I had dealt with, you know, grief and bereavement in different ways. I pretty much had dealt with grief and bereavement from my whole family all at once and all my friends, which was extremely difficult to deal with. It took a lot of self work and, you know, basically psychology to figure things out about myself and what was really going on. And understanding that you can't take everybody in that organization and lump them all into one basket, because there are some good people that are just really deceived and in delusionment, just like that fellow that gave that talk, that memorial talk, and he was selling the JW narrative. I'm sure that he thought at the time, and I believe he said that he thought at the time he was doing the best he could for everybody around there involved, because, you know, their MO is, you know, these are all Walking Dead people. That's what my whole family viewed me as, is that he's the Walking Dead. They're dead. They just don't even know it. And I'm sure that he was thinking at the time, if he could just get the message across, then this death, this funeral, be worth it, without considering the trauma that people had gone through because of the loss. It's all that, right, that sales pitch and everything. Anyway, interesting enough, I had gone through all of that and then became pastor of a church and had dealt and helped people with bereavement. It was a different learning curve because, you know, you've got this person believes in a paradise earth. This person believes in a reincarnation or Christ consciousness. And, you know, and that person believes in going to heaven and being with Jesus and all that. And then you've got the Messianics, you know, the Messianic Jews, and there's all different flavors of that. And I got into all of that and helped different people out. And then I left all of that, and I had contacted a rabbi, and this is going to blow your socks off. 6 years later, I had been a Orthodox Jew after all of that. So I had contacted a rabbi. I wanted to learn some more from the ancient books in their original languages. And, you know, fast forward 6 years later, I was an Orthodox Jew, Chabad Lubavitch. And I had gone over with a fine-tooth comb, you know, all of the BS that the Watchtower Society had translated for their own benefit, knew from my own eyes of the deception in their translations and different things to be able to push their narrative, and then recognize some of the same tactics that the Orthodox Jews use with the witnesses. If you've ever read the book Shepherding the Flock with Kindness, which is an elder's book, it's based off of the term Sholem Bayit, which is meaning keeping the peace. In other words, you're allowed to lie. You're allowed to withhold truth and lie to keep the peace, which is, the elders have that book. So their whole basis of what they do is basically to keep their organization going, and just like the Chabad do, and just like the Jews do. So you can lie, you can twist things, because it's better just to keep everybody together and to keep them under control. So doing that for 6 years, 7 years, I had left I'd finally got my fill, learned what I needed to learn, and left it and started doing the real work, the inner work, and recognizing that you know, everybody grieves in a different way. The trauma causes that, you know, how you experienced it. The one lady that talked about how they left her brother out. That's very hurtful and it's damaging. And you can imagine what he went through, you know, and then what she went through. And then, but it was actually, it could be a blessing too, because I'm sure that there were people there that recognized that. Maybe that helped them to exit. You know, maybe they recognized that and said, wow, that was just inhuman. This is wrong. And maybe it started getting them to question. I know that a lot of things that how I was treated caused my mother and my brother to leave. And then I'm getting down to the juicy part. So so it's been what, I don't know, 15 years after ceasing to become an Orthodox Jew. and learning quantum physics and psychology and theosophy and theology and different things like that, I came to the conclusion that, you know, we are all wonderful human beings that are experiencing a lot of stuff and in different circumstances. And there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses out there that they experience some stuff. You're going to react certain ways because you experienced it. I tried to look back on my dad to see if there was anything redeeming about that whole situation. Maybe on one hand, I could say that he provided. Well, then I go back, I go, well, there's a lot of times I was under neglect. I was abused. I was caused to be a workhorse, and I went without food and basically had to pay my own way since I started chopping firewood and mowing orchards and doing man chores by the time I was 9 years old, and then punished severely if I didn't do them correctly. But the thing is, I could count on one hand about the things that he did, but what I can be thankful and happy about was he showed me how not to be a father. So when I had my daughter, I did just the opposite. And I'll tell you what, we have a great relationship, fantastic relationship. I got to teach her, you know, basically off of the example of how not to be a father. So I had a good opposite example. But my father died about 3 weeks ago. So the fact is that, and this is weird. So for the lady that said that she believes she saw her daughter, you know, I'm a skeptic, and I don't like to say I saw aliens or ghosts or anything like that. I try to intellectualize it all the way, but I'm into quantum physics and it all kind of jives with that. But I'm going to tell you, about 3 weeks ago, the day that he died, and I didn't know he died, I was climbing up a ladder, and I bent down to fill up some water in a bucket, and I pushed against my rib on my left-hand side, which happens to be the ribs that he separated kicking me down the hallway when I was 5 years old. That have given me problems, but not for the last 10, 20 years. They've been fine. But on that day, I bent over, pushed against that rib, and it popped out of place. And it was the next day that I had found out that he had died previously.
Wow.
So I had no idea what that was. And I'm not going to say, well, maybe that was source or spirit or God or whatever, or angels saying, hey, you know, I'm right here, and you're going to be dealing with this thing. And that when that rib popped out of place, and I felt that, immediately my mind went to that incident when he kicked me down the hallway and separated my rib when I was 5 or 6 years old. And so the next day when I got the phone call from my daughter, because she was still in contact with my mother, her grandma, and he had told me that my father had passed away the day before. So, you know, we all have our own experiences and our own belief, but the most important thing that's gotten me through everything is the fact that I know who I am. I know that I am loved, that I am good, that I am a good father. I know that my father, that my creator, there's no way that he would turn his back on me because I know who I am. Now, the hardest thing is when you do something wrong, do you still look at yourself that way? Of course you do. If you have any children, you know that you would never turn your back on them. And so the organization isn't your father. You know, the experiences that happen have nothing to do between you and your relationship with your creator, God. And so what's really important is for you to know yourself, to be okay with who you are, with your journey. I mean, I know that when I was, 17 years old, I was doing all sorts of stuff. I was in the assemblies. I was a good person. I was trying my best. Was I a bad person? Was I rejected? And was I following the wrong God because I was a JW? No, it was my moment. It was my journey. It was my path, and it was okay for that time. When I got the opportunity to move on, I did. and I did some things along the way. But every single person in here, no matter what you went through, it all made you who you are today, and you got to love yourself for that. You got to understand that your Creator, your God, loved you all through the whole thing, and that you're going to be okay. Those bad things that happen can be a great help and source of encouragement to other people, because a lot of people that I went to school with didn't have to go through the stuff I went through. You know, if you were a JW, no birthdays, no celebrations, you were odd, all that kind of thing. You were kind of taught not to be friends with anybody else. So, I mean, we were oddballs, and we were experiencing that kind of trauma, social trauma. And so you went through all that stuff. You can help some people out there because you have that experience. And then you can also display the quality of your Father, and that's forgiveness, because I know that I've done some things along the way that I'm not proud of. And so, they're just ignorant people. They're just brainwashed people. Some of them are pure evil. Like my dad, I'm not going to his, and I think maybe he might have left them too, by the way, because my mother, I did call my mother up. I didn't talk to her in 20 years or 30 years, whatever. Did call her up after I heard 2 days later, and she's doing fine and all that. And she mentioned that he got cremated and that they were going to have a service at the cemetery, which was shocking to me. Because, my brother being circuit overseer or whatever like that, and all his good old boy buddies and stuff were all in the Kingdom Hall, or they used to be when I knew him last, which I might not even have known him towards his last 10, 20 years. But the fact that they weren't having it at the Kingdom Hall, they were having it at the cemetery.
That is interesting.
So, yeah, that is interesting. But I think maybe because of the fact that I refused to have any interaction with my family, because they were enablers, and not a single one of them had tried to contact me or make amends or anything. And I'm not going to make myself out to be perfect, but I did not do anything to them. And if they could have reached out to me, when my grandfather died, they did reach out to me, but I mean, I was on the phone with him in his ear for a few minutes, and that was that, So, I just think that you can take those experiences and these traumas, and you can work them out for your growth and your good. And I know that the Creator, that God, whatever you want to call him, however you view him or her or it or whatever, that I know that because we are a part of it and it created us, is so much better than we could ever be. More for, one of the things that the Muslims, I looked into Islam for about a year.
Nick, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you just for a moment. If anybody is waiting to speak, Nick is almost finished. I don't want you to think that you are forgotten. Nick, could you wrap it up, please? I think what you're saying is very wonderful. Continue.
I'll wrap it up. We can learn, and we don't have to be in these little groups and these little clans. And so I allowed myself to look into all sorts of different things. Even the Bible says a multitude of counselors is better. So I looked into Islam, and the prayer that they say in Islam 5 times a day is, that God is the most forgiving, the most giving, the most beneficent. And if you really think about it, our Creator is the most forgiving, the most giving, the best, the most loving of everything. Just remember that whenever you're going through everything, that it doesn't matter what happened, you're still right there with them. And he loves those people too. They're just a little bit blind right now. Thank you for letting me speak.
I'm sorry for your loss. And I just wanted
to say. Oh, it's okay. I dealt with his loss about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Be here now, and I have a fun one for you. That was then, this is now. That was then, this is now.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Nick. I think everything you said was very important to listen to, and I'm glad it'll be in the archives. Pixie, do you have any other thoughts, my dear? That was a good one.
Wanted to have that for him because I too, read lots of stuff and it took a long time. So that part I could relate to how long it takes to sometimes work through things that you think are going to take 5 minutes. And I think that really for the born-ins, it takes other born-ins to understand it. And that's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Pixie. Would anybody else like to chime in? *6, this is your show.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, this is Ken again?
Yeah, Ken. I got that number that you're looking for.
Oh, lay it on me. I do.
Okay. 1646. 505. 00. Room 610A.
Wait a minute. I might be missing a digit. 646-505-00 what? There's 2 digits.
No, 505-3500.
Okay, I apologize. 3500. And what room, my dear?
610A.
610A.
Yeah, or maybe it might be just 610, but if you mention one of those words, you'll get there. It's on the 6th floor and so forth.
Ken, I cannot thank you enough.
Okay. And I'll get the rest of it. I'll get the rest of it to you later because I know we're short on time and I don't have it in front of me.
You.
I just want to make a quick comment over here and everything like that, how, cold-hearted and callous the Watchtower Society is. When we go to a funeral or to a wake or something like that, it's supposed to be to give moral support and sympathy, for the family. And to, if it's a friend or something like that, to always remember the pleasant memories of this individual and so forth. There shouldn't be any hostility or anything like that at these funerals. But this Watchtower Society is just cold-hearted and callous. I don't know how they can, muster up the courage to say that they are the true and only loving religion. That's a lot of nonsense. There's about the most cold-hearted and callous organization in the world. So,
hello.
I appreciated the comments.
Okay,
we'll take the next caller, and thank you.
Yeah.
And you have a good evening.
You, Ken. Okay, go ahead, sister.
Yeah, this is Whitley from New York. I'm sorry. I just want to say something. I agree with what Ken is saying. I agree with what a lot of people, the callers are saying because not too long ago, there was a close family member who had passed away. I haven't been to the Kingdom Hall in about almost a decade, and when myself and some other family members who were they call visitors, they studied, but they didn't get baptized. They came to the Kingdom Hall. I think that because of some people knowing, some of the witnesses that knew that were a friend of the family members were still in the organization, which was about 6 of them. Some other witnesses knew who they were, or knew who we were. They all treated all of us, even the ones of us who are PAMO, physically out, mentally out, treated us like we were disfellowshipped or something. They shunned us, they hard shunned us and everything. And then when they came to the repast, some of them acted like they didn't want to service at the repast. Now, the family that were in the organization, they ended up getting the food for us, whatever, was needed or whatever, the program and everything for us at the repast. But they acted like they didn't want us there. And then found out that I heard one of my other siblings and one of my other cousins who was were PAMO, who sometimes screams. To make a long story short, they heard a little bit of an argument with one of my family members' elders was telling this first cousin of mine, oh, well, you, tomorrow, because the repast and the funeral is on a Saturday. Oh, well, tomorrow, you better make it to the hall tomorrow, Sunday, because they were going to come, I guess, the next week so they could take their time to grieve and everything. But they were telling them, you better come, because since you want to become a regular pioneer and everything, you better come the next day. No time to grieve, got to do what you got to do for Jehovah and the governing body. So when we heard that, from some of because there was a good group of 10 of us that don't have anything to do with the organization anymore, we were talking to all each other in our 2-3 hotel rooms. We were like, what the hell? Excuse for
real.
Rick and Susan, sorry. But we were saying, what the heck, Why would they trying to tell them to go and do that? But I wasn't surprised, because when my mother and one of my brothers had passed away, the elders and the CO had told us to come to the meeting, if not the next day, because everything happened on Saturday, make sure the next following week, which we had our meetings on Tuesday and Thursday. What do you call the public, not the public, Watchtower. We were the school and service meeting that we had better come the next week. Don't wait till the next Sunday afterwards for the, public talk and Watchtower study. We'd be there the next. And it was, I looked at that like, but, we just had a family member die. Can't we just take time to grieve? No, they wanted us, do the CO, to come, right then and there the next week to attend the meeting, to also make sure that we make it out in field service the next couple of days afterwards. But with this family, now they told them, you better get out, go to the meeting next day tomorrow, and make sure we see you in the ministry. Because she has the card. This cousin of mine is a regular pioneer, wanting to work wanting to work up to becoming a special pioneer, and she mans the carts, in the congregation. So we looked at each other like, wow. So I'm gonna cut it now. Like Kenneth said, and a lot of the listeners said, Watchtower doesn't care for everybody. They only care for the bottom line. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Oh, Hidley, thank you so much. We're running very short on time. We have a couple minutes. Is anyone, maybe a new caller, who would like to share a thought? You can use any name you would like. Please feel free to hit *6. Or anybody who has yet to speak, please feel free. I'm listening.
Yeah, are y'all still on?
We are. Who's this?
Okay. Well, Stacy, I'm trying to find out where he went off the air, and then when I called in, I could hear y'all and the lady that was just talking, but I didn't know if I was listening to something that was live or already on. I want to find out how to put my own story on the internet, and so that every time the person I'm wanting to talk about or tell the truth about, it will come up anytime somebody looks up his name.
Well, Stacy, we have a remedy for that. Actually, Rick has set aside every other Sunday, and it's tomorrow, 6 Green Sunday. He has set aside an hour specifically for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or those who are leaving or anyone who wants to share their story. And he gives them an hour, and so you can talk as long as you want, and it will be in the archives. And you can speak freely, Stacy. So if you would like to share your story either tomorrow or 2 weeks from now on Rick's show, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Watchtower story, you can simply email Rick at jwworldnews@gmail.com and just put in the subject line, I'd like to tell my story, so he knows what it's about. So it's all up to you because he has set aside the time tomorrow and every other Sunday.
Okay, you're kind of cutting in and out, so I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. You can email Rick at jwworldnews@gmail.com and put in the subject line, I'd want to tell my story. Okay, and include your number so he can call you. Did you hear that okay?
Oh, I couldn't tell if it was AW or JW.
J as in Jack in the Box.
Yeah. And then W.
jwworldnews@gmail.com.
You're not getting it.
Did you get that, Stacy?
No, it's cutting out too bad. Can you see my telephone number?
No, ma'am, I sure cannot.
Can you hear me all right, sister? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if you would like, what Anne-Marie is saying is we have a program tomorrow, Sunday program at beginning at 2:00 Eastern time. And it's called Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses Share Their Story of Being in the Watchtower. And if you'd like to come on, just dial the same telephone number that you called in here tonight at 2:00 tomorrow, and we'd love to hear your story. And what was your name? What was your name, sister?
You gave me Stacy.
Oh, Stacy.
Last time I called you.
All right. Well, Stacy, you think you might be able to come on tomorrow?
Well, I'm not an ex. So, and when I tell their story, everybody will know it. So that's why I was trying to put it on in an area where they wouldn't know that it was, more PMO than apostate.
All right. So you're still in then. Okay. So, yeah, right. It'd be best that you don't do that. Yeah, for the time being. But when you're ready, Stacy, we can get you on. But if you're PMO and trying to stay incognito, you better do that. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank.
You said I better do that. Do what?
I mean, you want to tell your story? You're on here tonight talking. You want to tell your story on our other program?
No, I wanted to be able to learn how to put it on the internet by myself.
All right. Well, you might have to. I mean, to do that, you might have to get yourself a YouTube channel or a Facebook channel. But yeah, that's maybe somebody could help you, but it'd be hard to just explain that to you tonight. But if you want to write me, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I can walk you through that, Stacy. Okay.
Okay. Well, good.
Okay.
jwworldnews.com.
At gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
You got it. All right, Stacy. Well, thank you. All right, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you.
Well, Anne-Marie, I think we probably wrap this up then. So do your thing. Give your last word, Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody that called in, and the subject of death and how we're influenced by Watchtower's attitude toward death is really sad. I want to thank Ken from Missouri. I want to thank Rick and Susan and Dean and Dick Borgie and Gail, whose son died in 2005. And on May 2nd, her grandson was murdered at age 16, and how the minister for her grandson spent time learning about him and gave a great service. And she also lost her mother, but she had a Christian service. I want to thank Seth Holder, Joe from South Carolina, Penny from Kentucky, who lost her daughter. And she said she even could see her sometimes after she died 21 years ago in a car accident. I want to thank Debbie Moore. The girls Kenny's daughter was only 16 years old, I believe. And Debbie Moore, her dad died in 2000. I want to thank also Debbie for speaking up about another funeral, I think her mother's, who told the minister who was gonna give the talk that better not ignore her disfellowship brothers if he didn't exist. I want to thank RJ, who lost his surrogate grandfather in a car accident on the way to convention. And I want to thank Nick from Texas. His father died just 3 weeks ago. I want to thank Pixie for offering her words of comfort, as she always does. I love Hidley. I want to thank her so much for calling in from New York. She lost a close family member. And lastly, I want to thank Stacy. Thank all of you for coming in. You all make the show. We need to go to Rick now and JW World News. Rick?
Well, Anne Marie, what I see here is quite fascinating. And the reason why I say that is, I'm here at the control panel, the 6 screens. And of course, we have a whole lot of people that come in and out all the time, all night long. But what we're looking at tonight, we had an unusual amount of people come into the 6 screens. So we want to thank you for that. And Susan, we're on now yet? So anyways, I wanted to thank you for bringing all of this up. And because what I wanted to say is all these people have called in is something very unusual. You got a whole lot of people, on a summer night, you would think people would be out going to the beach or to the mountains or camping, but they're listening right in here to the 6 screens Telenetwork, and we really appreciate them wanting to be with us tonight. So thank you all, and stay tuned for JW World News. We got a lot coming up tonight. Man, we are going to talk about the conventions. I have some pictures. Now, wait till you see some of these pictures. You're going to be shocked. But we have 2 people, one on the West Coast in Long Beach, California, that's going to be visiting on us tonight and talking about the convention he just went to. And we also have someone from Lowell, Massachusetts, right up here where I live on the East Coast, that's going to tell you what they observed today. So that's coming up next, right here on the 6 screens Telenetwork. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to be disappointed. Thank you for listening in to Anne Marie. We're going to end this stream here, put it in